welcome to another episode of Leading from the Middle. Today is really special because I wonder if you have ever struggled to use your voice or felt like your voice wasn't heard. I have a special guest with me, and it's Jiezhen. Those of you who listened to the first podcast I did with her, she's a mom of two, she's an entrepreneur, a leadership consultant, and she started a mindful leadership collective in Harvard University, right? We talk a lot about that. And she's also the founder of the Possibility Playbook, right? So today we're going to talk about how can we be unafraid to own our voice, to go after what we want in life, because you're really good with that. And if you're kind of introverted, pessimistic, do not like to, network, is it like what are some tips that, will help them, right? In terms of helping us to go after what we want with our voice. Okay. So, Jiezhen, back to you. You have built communities, of moms. You are such a serial networker. I know because whenever we meet clients, right? Jiezhen will have exchanged WhatsApp with the CEOs by the end of like 15 minutes. I would not be the person doing that, right? I don't know how she does it, but you just do it so brilliantly. Where did this courage to like just talk to any person, no matter what, who, when, how, like you just do it? Like, is it an innate love of people or does it require some skill set? Like, where does this come from?
Yeah, thanks, Zann. Thanks for the question and thanks for having me back on your podcast. Yeah, I think for me, where it comes from, I do think there is an inherent love for people, and I think as humans, honestly, we have a innate need for connection. I think it's just how connected people want to be, and how much and when is probably the dial that we dial up and down. But I do think that making connection is an inherent human need. I think whether we give ourselves the space or the permission sometimes to do that is another thing. And also what holds us back is the other piece. So for a lot of people, I do think they want to feel connected to others, right? Whether that's in a work setting, in a social setting, in a family setting, in a relationship setting. There's usually an inherent desire to feel connected, to feel part of something bigger than ourselves, that sense of belonging that as human beings we are wired to have. If not, we would just live alone in isolation in a cave. And I do think that one of the things that for me has been this, it's a muscle, right? Just like going to the gym. And I've coached a lot of leaders and people that might be, if you're talking about introversion, extroversion, on that scale, maybe they're more introverted, which means they actually don't need to be around people to get their energy. And I think there's a distinction there from not liking to be sociable, because you can be introverted and sociable.
Yeah, that's me.
Right? Yeah. You still like to be around people, right? But you're quite selective at who you surround yourself with, because your energy is precious. And for extroverts, we get our energy from other people, right? So I'm quite extroverted. My husband is also quite extroverted. What we didn't realize is our daughter it's not 1 + 1 + 2, 1 + 1 = 3, 1 + 1 = 3. Our daughter is like another level of extroversion. But I do think it's not so much an introversion extroversion piece of it, but how do you think about how you make connections? I think that is actually the underlying piece. And I think that what intimidates a lot of people about networking or making connections is usually the fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment. It's usually these fears that are holding us back from actually creating the life we want to have, right? From creating the connections we want to have. Some people are it's like dating, right? Some people are too worried to put themselves out there because they don't want to get hurt. Same for this in a professional setting. Some people don't want to approach someone because they don't want to look like, oh, I desperate, or I need to meet someone. I want to exchange contacts. But usually if you're in a professional setting where you're with other professionals, people are there to also meet other professionals, right? Whether it's a formal networking event or a conference or even a meeting. You want to think more about the relationship necessarily than just that transaction, right? It's not about collecting as many business cards as possible or having as many followers or connections on LinkedIn, but really think about the quality of connection. So I think that's what, when we think about owning your voice, it's for the sake of what? We often ask ourselves that. It's not just speaking up for the sake of speaking up in a meeting or an event, but what are we trying to really create here? What is the experience you want to have for ourselves and for others? So I don't think of networking as a way to, I guess, accumulate more of a network. But how do I find more people I resonate with, right? That are going to, that I can connect with, that I can be of service to, but, be in contribution to, but that I also can meet people that, inspire me, and people that raise me up. And sometimes people go into networking with a very specific thing. I need to meet someone that does like leadership consulting, that, works with one of the, main big company, or I need to meet the CEO and CHROs, like specific people. And I think when we do that, we almost like create a tunnel, a narrow vision that stops us from meeting a lot of other people. Same with dating. I think this is quite similar also to dating, right? People have this checklist of I like ABC, right?
Must be
in my
tall.
partner must be like tall, dark, handsome, whatever, right? And then and then you go in looking for this person, and then you miss everything else.
Wow.
And most honestly, some of the best connections I've had, or the most amazing opportunities I've gotten, were when I least expected it. And I remember the first time I was asked to speak at the UN, right? This was someone I had met maybe 3 to 4 years prior at some ASEAN conference thing. We didn't even really have a lot of time together, but I guess we had a conversation and we exchanged contacts. And like 3, 4 years later, this person just sends me and was like, hey, we have, we're doing a session on this topic. I thought you'd be a great speaker. Would you be interested? And then they flew me out to Bangkok. This is the UN in Bangkok, right? And yeah, and she had me come speak. But we didn't have it's not about quantity time as well. No, it's like a quality moment of connection. And connection doesn't need a lot of time to build. If you are real, and it's about being yourself and being authentic and not trying to be someone else that you're not. I think that's what it means to own your voice, is to find who you really are, what matters to you, and to be able to articulate it in a short period of time, not a rehearsed elevator speech. Because like I said previously in our last episode, we're always evolving, right? Figure out what matters for you right now, and then, connect with people, share that with others. I think sometimes we're too scared to show who we really are, what is our challenge right now, and to speak into that. But honestly, sharing your challenges is actually a very good way to open up the space, because it helps people realize that, oh, maybe she doesn't have it all figured out. She doesn't have it together. And it gives them the space to also extend a helping hand. So I find asking for advice, sharing your challenges, something's in your mind, like, how are you thinking about this, is a great way to make connection and find your voice and own your voice as you speak through that. But yeah, I think it's something it's a muscle that can be strengthened.
So if I go deeper, like go deeper into the depths of the iceberg, what is the mindset one should have when I'm trying to network? Because as an introverted, I'm sociable but introverted. Sometimes I have the thinking like, I don't think I have value for this guy. Let's say I meet Stephen Burlett. I'm just gonna be stuck there, to be honest. I'm just gonna be like stuck and like hi, and then awestruck, and then okay, bye, and then like kick myself for not making that magical connection you talked about. Or it could happen with me and one of the, maybe I'm leading from the middle and I'm meeting my new CEO, or I'm meeting my client. The CHRO is very fierce looking. I have all this noise in my head. Like, okay, she looks very fierce. I don't think she has time for me. I don't think I should block time on her calendar. So what mindset might you encourage these people to adopt?
Yeah. And would you say those mindsets are helping or hindering you? Right? I think that's the first question, right? And so you said hindering, right? And I think mindsets are, okay, I like to reframe mindset sometimes when I'm coaching as stories we tell ourselves, right? So these are stories we tell ourselves, and they're stories, right? Are they true or not? True or false is not so much the question, but they're stories. And so what is the story you want to tell yourself, right? I think as you go into this, and I think for someone that maybe is a little more uncomfortable with networking, some preparation does help, just to get yourself in that mind space. So something that we like to say when we coach a lot of skills and senior leaders that you think would have it all figured out is to remind them that you have nothing to prove and all to contribute. So I think sometimes you said you want to impress them, right? And I think when you try to impress people, we end up showing up with this image that's not really us. We end up trying to like overcompensate or like tell everyone all the exciting things we're doing. But that's not really how we build connection, right? When we build connection, it's slowing down, like pausing, just connecting as two human beings, most of the time. And my husband's actually really good at this. Maybe you should have. I think like I love networking. My husband is like another level. He says he's like a LinkedIn power user, right? Like he just loves like making connections. He actually will meet people, okay? Like after he connects with all LinkedIn. But anyway, you can talk to my husband about networking another time and conferencing. That's another thing. But something that, I think for him, he will talk to people about anything, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be, what is your work? Because people ask you, what do you do? That's like the standard question. Preparing sometimes for some of these opportunities, it might not be a networking event, maybe it's a wedding, or it's like a friend's birthday that there might be strangers there that you don't know. Having a few questions maybe in your back pocket that you can open up the floor, that's not necessarily so predictable as like, oh, so what do you do, where do you work, which I think in Singapore is a very common question we like to ask.
Very boring conversationalist.
I mean, something I like to ask is oh, what brings you here today? Right? And it could be as straightforward as, oh, my friend introduced me and told me to come. I know this friend from like school or something. Or it could be like, yeah, I just wanted to meet more people. Or like I was trying to like, they might reveal to you more than you know. But keeping an open-ended question, I think like that helps. If not, they just tell you, oh, I do this and this and that.
I love it. What brings you here today? Very open-ended. It could go all anywhere, and you can just follow up from how they answered the question.
So yeah, and then you follow up from there. And I mean, you're a coach, right? You think of how you also ask questions of your coachees and how you uncover more of who they are. And I think that's what networking really is. It's about connecting. It's about and making a real connection. Because as we know, life, I think even business, it's all about, a lot of it is based on relationships, right? It's not how many people you know, but the quality of your relationships and connections that will carry you through the last mile. It's not having like 1,001 different people you are like connected to, but who are the genuine connections that people really get you and you get them.
Yeah. So in terms of owning your voice in a professional setting, I mean, we are women, and very often the listener is listening, right? A lot of women work in a very highly male-driven industries, right? The engineering industries, tech industries. And sometimes it's really hard to own your voice, to speak up in a meeting, in a boardroom, things like that. What has your experience personally been? Are there any strategies that you actually use yourself? Have you ever felt like silenced actually? Like you don't have that space, no space created for you to speak up? And how do you find space for yourself to have your voice heard? Because if people can't hear my voice, I'm not owning it. Yeah. So how have you felt that, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think a big part is actually to not wait for the space and claim it. Right? You have to claim the space. You cannot wait for it to be given, right? I think with a lot of the leaders we coach also, it's they cannot sometimes wait for that permission to, because most of the time the senior stakeholders are not even thinking about it, right? They're not thinking about, oh, I need to keep creating space for this person to step in. I think part of owning your leadership and your life is being intentional about and it doesn't mean speak up in every forum, but being intentional about when you want to speak up on things that matter to you. And I think just very practical tips. One of the, so I coach a lot of leaders in mindful leadership, right? And part of that is learning how to center ourselves, especially when we feel pulled or triggered, like someone said something and like, you really want to react then. How do you come from a more centered place so you're not responding from a charged place, right? And so when you do speak up, you're owning your voice, you're not reacting, you're responding and not reacting. But I think something that's underlying this, that's a lot deeper, goes back to the stories and the scripts, right? That we have. What is stopping you from speaking up in the room? What is the script that you have running your head that's telling you, I don't know if it's like worth me speaking up. Is it even important? Is it listen? And knowing how to press pause on the scripts that you have that are probably from, as you know, when we coach people from childhood, a lot of these things start when we're growing up, right? And how do we pause a script, not to throw it out the window, because these scripts have protected us, right? They've served us for many seasons of our life, but deciding when you want to put a new song on, right? What song do you want to play right now? And that conscious shift, just taking a breath. And we can do this another time too, but I have like a centering practice that I walk people through in the moment to recenter themselves so they can come from that place of the song I want to be playing right now and not the script that I grew up, kind of listening to or being told that I had to be. And this is something I'm thinking a lot about now as a mother, and how I teach my daughter, right? How to speak up for the things that matter, and to build that courage. It's honestly a courage muscle.
Tell us an example that I'm sure a lot of our listeners are mom and dads, and then sometimes maybe kids get bullied in school or they face certain unfairness treatment and they don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. So, a lot of it is teaching children how to use their words, right? To know that their words matter. And a lot of that's how we model that at home, right? But specifically, one thing that Juniper has been repeating, she's 4.5 now. She's been repeating herself so whenever she does something that I know stretched her out of her comfort zone a bit, so we went for aerial yoga, right? Twice, and she had to do this upside down. She's pretty gutsy and brave, but she did this upside down thing, and a lot of the teachers okay, if they don't want to do it, it's okay. But she was like, I want to try, right? And she could tell that she was hesitant and she didn't want me to let her go just yet. But then she said, okay, Mama, you can let go now. And I did. And then after that, I processed it with her. I was like, oh, Juniper, how were you feeling? She's like, yeah, I was scared, but I did it anyways, right? And then I asked her, what does that mean when you're scared and you do it anyway? She said, that's what it means to be brave. So I'm reinforcing, and you can use to yourself too. Speak to your inner child the way you talk to children, right? Yes. Do this for your inner child. Just okay, I'm scared. I feel the fear. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, right? We know this. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's feeling fear and doing it anyways. So you can, in that moment, be like, oh, do I speak up and tell this CEO that he's going down the wrong path? Or do I just let him continue down the path, even though I know it's inherently out of alignment with everything that we've heard? And you can hit pause, right? And just be like, you can feel the fear and do it anyways. Write it down first, right? Write it down on your notebook or something. I find it helps sometimes for those that need a bit more prep time. I tend to speak on the fly more, but I know a lot of my clients need time to write down, go in with 3 questions that you want to ask or 3 points you want to land, and that helps. But building this courage muscle is something that we can do for our children and for ourselves too, right? I think it's something that can be honed. It's like going to the gym and building that muscle. The more weights you lift, the stronger your muscle gets. It might take time. It might be sore for a while. But yeah, so that's something I've been working, making sure that I acknowledge with Juniper and encourage her to continue to know that yes, you can be scared, but if it's something that matters to you, you can still do it anyways. You can do it scared.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that courage comes from.
To add on to that, I think one thing that really helped me in terms of courage to speak up and own my voice, because I still feel fear to today, right? I've been consulting for 8 years. And one thing that really helps me is to know that your voice represents other voices. That means when I speak up in front of the room, other female ladies, like women, will come up to me and say, hey, Zann, it's really good to see an Asian female face here today.
Yeah.
When I was in Dubai last December. And when they said that, I was like, oh gosh, I'm so glad I said yes to this.
Remembering that it's not just about you, right?
Yes.
I think because sometimes we get very self-conscious because we think it's us.
Yes.
And remembering that when you speak up, you're also speaking truth to the unseen, the invisible, those that didn't get a chance to be in that room that day, and that we're never completely disconnected, right? As human beings, we're all interconnected. We're part of something bigger than ourselves. And just remembering that, I think that it's not, you're also speaking up on, if this matters to you, it probably matters to someone else.
Yes.
And not forgetting that that we're so much more connected than we remember sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point.
And when we talk about the podcast, Leading from the Middle, I think a lot of leaders are leading very large teams in the middle. And how do they get that followership, that conviction, that discretionary energy from people they lead? It's actually through their voice, owning their voice. So last question for Jiezhen before we wrap up owning a voice. In this season, because I'm linking it to the previous episode, in this season of motherhood, being a consultant and, being a wife, what does owning your voice mean to you in this season?
Yeah, so I think for this, the last couple of years, I feel I've been very focused. I feel I've been actually for someone that's quite extroverted, a lot more inward looking, especially through pregnancy and birth and postpartum, early years of postpartum, very focused on my home space, right? And I think now, as I kind of emerge out of this, time of hibernation, and I feel I'm coming out of a winter into like a spring, right? And so I think I've been trying to make sure that I show up on the platforms that matter more. One of my intentions this year was to, I actually love doing interviews. I love speaking on panels. I love being on podcasts and saying more, saying yes to more of those things that I love doing, but also finding what my voice is in this season, right? Owning my voice and owning this season.
Yes.
Building on what we last spoke about as well. And I think the more we practice our voice, and you'll find this with public speaking, right?
Yes.
I think for me, I almost had to refine my courage in public speaking.
Yes.
As a kid, I was actually quite like comfortable. And along the way, I think life and society sometimes just tells you like, oh, why ask so many questions? Why da, 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 da. And then for me, that was what got me to kind of, retreat back, right? And part of it is finding my way back to this voice that is in alignment with who I am right now and who I want to be and creating space for it. But I think it's an ever evolving journey, and part of strengthening that muscle and that skill set is intentionally choosing to step into it, to have that courage to show up even when it's scary, and to do the things that we know make us feel more full, that fill our cups, that also hopefully, the last line of our wedding vows actually from me and my husband is we spoke about this morning, so it's very fresh. It's to be a light for each other and the world around us.
Wow.
And it's not just, I think when you use your voice, it's not just for yourself, it's for the person that you're connecting with. And if you share that with others, you never know who it might resonate with or benefit, because we are all connected. We're very interconnected. This sense of interbeing is something I think we forget about, but it's something that ties us all together as humans, and why we do what we do and why we move through the world the way that we do. So
That's amazing. I think we have to have another one for Jiezhen because I want to find out, because I was asking you, how did you end up finding Gerald who is so reflective, right? Into reflection and introspection, right? And you said
it didn't start out that way, right? I think it's something that we co-created together, and I also have the benefit of having been in the space of facilitation and coaching.
So that was also your use of owning your voice, because I can imagine a lot of women, we don't know how to quote unquote facilitate that conversation, or
With our partners.
when you say like quote unquote train your man to have these reflective
Yeah, it
conversations.
can be trained.
Wow, we need to
muscle.
have we need
Just how we can train leaders, right? To like develop that muscle to be open, to have those conversations. I think a big part is helping understanding the why, right? Like, why would we do this? Why does it matter? And why would we want to put time into this? And most people just don't have the skill set, or maybe the vocabulary or the courage to have those conversations. And it's about, I think, bringing more of that to the forefront, because it's there. It's just how do we bring forth the things that matter and make sure that we make more space for the things that matter in our lives.
Brilliant. So today we're summing up owning our voice, and I hope for all listeners out there, if you are kind of struggling to find your voice, I would say take the first step out of your water.
Yeah,
And
write it down and
yes.
then go and take that one question out. Ask anyone. You can talk to like the taxi driver, the auntie, and like, try it with like, your secondary school friend you haven't met up in a while. People that start with low stakes, I would say, and then you build the muscle, right?
Yeah.
Not a big high powered conversation where you're, the stakes are very high,
Yes.
but the more you train it, the more the stronger we get, right? You train the muscle.
Exactly. I was reading something called effect tolerance. Apparently, when you try it, despite being fearful, you're building something in your neuroplasticity. So it becomes more tolerant of stress, fear of failure, things like that. Fear of losing face in the local context. Yeah. So go try it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the learning zones, right? You can strengthen your resilience and your stretch zone by doing more of the things that help you stretch. And I mean, we both went to see Stephen Bartlett, right? He tells about the mindset muscle and this new, I guess that neuroplasticity that we talk about, and that muscle is strengthened by doing the things that we know are in service and alignment to who we want to be. It might not be the things that we always love doing, but making that choice, right? The intentional choice to speak up even when it's scary, to show up even when you're unsure, to have the courage to say, hey, this matters to me. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
And having that courage to tell ourselves that and tell our children and our partners that.
Yeah. So Jiezhen is a cheerleader for me. I'm actually going for a women's retreat. I'm going to network the hell out of it. And I'll tell you guys about it in the next podcast.
Yeah, we can debrief that.
I know, we can debrief to see how I've applied whatever you shared. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, again, comments down below. We're on YouTube and Spotify. Follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And if there's any success stories of speaking up, owning your voice, let us know as well. We'd love to celebrate with you. And with that, thank you so much for your time. Bye. See you in the next episode.